You really have to fight to go at the right pace. And I tell people, it's a long day. There's plenty of time to speed up. So don't worry. You don't have to bank fast miles early on.
So what happened after that? Did you meet other people of the same mindset? I probably ran into something called the marathon maniacs.
I'm familiar with the maniacs. I never got very involved with the group because I was always more involved with the people I actually ran with. But I'm definitely familiar with the maniacs, and they're fun. They're a fun group of folks. But after you do your first ultra, you ultimately you meet people right away. So you make instant friends. It's a very close-knit community. So after I started doing a couple of races, then I knew plenty of people in the sport, and that opened up opportunities to run with others and learn a lot from other runners out there.
That's great. At some point, you were one of the co-founders of the very popular holiday marathons. Tell us about how that came about.
A friend, Michael Arnstein, and he was also an ultra runner. He lives in the Bronx. He's one of the friends I picked up in ultra running, and we started becoming training partners and running a lot together. These long distance, these ultra running races across the country, it's a different concept than marathons. Most of the races are put on by local people. They're not big corporate events. A lot of them don't have big sponsorships. A lot of them have very low fees, and it's a very grassroots effort. We felt like there wasn't a lot of events like this that existed in New York. I travel all across the country to do these ultra marathons.
Yeah.
And so I said, it would be great if we had something like this at home. Nothing like this really exists, where people could kind of just jump in, have fun, not pay a lot of money, and not worry about all the big corporate hoopla and sponsorship and everything. So Mike and I both kind of shared this vision, and we said, we'd been talking about it for a year. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving in 2010, we said, let's just put on a run in Van Cortlandt Park on Thanksgiving and see what happens. Let's try it out. If we don't try it, well, we're never going to know if this idea we've been talking about could take off. So we basically sent emails out to everyone we know. We showed up with bananas and oranges at Van Cortlandt Park on Thanksgiving in 2010, and we had about 400 people show up.
And I think it's anywhere from any distance, any 5K to up to a full marathon.
That was the really good thing about it, too. We really put a lot of time into creating a fun course. We weren't just going to run around the streets or run some boring loop. So we put hundreds of miles of running in Van Cortlandt Park, and we developed like a really neat 6.55-mile loop. Really shows off the entire park, really interesting and scenic, and it's also a good number because 6.55, if you do that twice, it's a half marathon. If you do that 4 times, it's a full marathon. And then we also gave an option, Van Cortlandt Park has something called the parade grounds, which is very, very flat, very easy, and it's about 1.5 miles long. And we kept that open for beginners. So if people want to run an easy 5K, they just kind of run the flats of Van Cortlandt Park twice. So we wanted, the goal was that this putting on the holiday marathons also wasn't about putting on a run just for runners. We wanted to open this up to everybody. We wanted to attract people that had never been involved in the sport before, and just regular folks who even want to come out and walk. So that holiday marathon's more than just about racing.
Right. Besides the bananas and the oranges, I think you had a gong. I mean, you made it really, really fun. And I think one of the prizes was a fork. I mean, a big fork and a little fork. How did you come up with the fork idea?
I think, we had a couple crazy ideas for prizes. I think Mike came up with the fork. Mike Arnstein came up with the fork idea because we wanted something to really attract people. We like the concept, but what if we give away this big fork? That's just one more incentive for people to show up. And it makes it fun. It makes it less serious, less stressful. And so, we gave out forks. I think the people who completed a marathon got like a foot-long fork, and everyone else got like a really nice, interesting fork.
It's amazing. I'm sure some of them are just as proud of that fork as some of their medals.
A lot of them even more so. I mean, people would email us from all over the country saying, is this for real? Are you guys really giving away these forks? Or do you really have these runs? And we're like, yeah, no, this is, a lot of people thought it was a joke.
Through Facebook, I heard about it, and I was fascinated, and everybody just loved the idea. Just show up and run without necessarily signing up somewhere. I guess you kept a logbook at the site where people can sign in and put in their mileage and their time. So sort of have some kind of a record somewhere.
We didn't require it, but we asked people sign up on the website in advance just so we didn't have an idea of how many people were coming. And then when people crossed the finish line, they signed their name and their time and their distance. And then we would post those results. So very, very easy, very laid back. And what running really is all about originally, it was just about getting getting out there, having a good time, and staying in shape.
Well, I've seen the photographs, and we're going to show some during the show, and the smiles on those people's faces just tells it all. And then you did it again in Christmas because people were wearing special horns, Christmas ornaments, so you carried forward the idea there.
Originally, it was just supposed to be a one-time thing. We wanted to see if it would be successful, but then people loved it so much, we said, all right, let's try this a month later on Christmas, and Christmas was even a bigger success. We gave away Santa hats, and Christmas was fun because everybody brought a gift. And we bought a big Christmas tree and put it at the finish line. So everybody who brought a gift put it under the Christmas tree. And if you finished the run, if you participated, you got to take a gift.
Oh.
So it was very fun. And we also had a toy drive for Bronx Youth in Need, and a lot of people brought extra gifts for this toy drive, and we donated them in the Bronx. So as I said, it's more than just a race.
Right,
it's about getting involved in the community, giving back to the community too.
That's an excellent idea, a toy drive, because I'm sure you filled up those containers very quickly with lots of great stuff.
Yeah, this past year, we actually had to hold the race in Yonkers this past year, but we packed a van. It was overflowing with gifts, and it was really, and we donated them to the Westchester County Marine Corps League's toy drive, and they were ecstatic. We had to bring them in on dollies, and it was just it was packed with gifts.
Excellent.
And we do this every run. We try to do some type of community-driven initiative. Obviously, Christmas toys were a good idea because it was Christmas.
Right.
The Labor Day last year, on our Labor Day run in the Bronx, Potts Food Pantry in the Bronx was they're always looking for donations.
Food,
yeah. So we filled up a couple vans full of food donations. We asked people to bring food donations to the Labor Day race, and people came out, and they really came through. And so we really like that aspect of.
Right, and you did one on Valentine's Day, which I really love.
Yeah, bring love, and we gave out free gifts to people. I mean, all the women who finished got a rose, and we gave away chocolates to everybody.
So sweet.
Yeah.
And I think in your races you give out bibs, so people feel like they're official, you know. I think it's always the same number, either 1 or 25.
Yeah.
Maybe on Christmas was 25, I can't remember.
In the beginning, we would put the date on the bibs, but then we realized everybody really likes the number 1. So we eventually just started printing, 500 number 1 bibs. And then everybody had the number 1, and they really liked it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it took off, though. People,
oh, that's great.
Because how often do you get to wear number 1? And that, it just aligns with our laid-back approach. You know, it's not about winning. Our races aren't competitive.
Yeah,
it's
I
about
get
just
it.
having
I
fun.
mean, I've seen the pictures. I haven't had a chance to go up to the Bronx and do a race, but all my friends have, and they just love it. And I love seeing the pictures because you have volunteer photographers, and they're professional quality photographs. So it's great to see everybody, you know, contribute in different ways.
I should really point that out. You know, Mike and I started these, and we put a ton of work into putting on these races, but people really came out. And that's kind of the ultra marathon race style of things too. I mean, you just get people to pitch in and help out, and that's what's made these races possible. We had 10 to 20 active volunteers who would help on some aspect of the race and really make things happen. I mean, so much goes into this, from marking the course. Like you said, Richard Tung takes pictures, just hauling all the equipment off the van and putting it back. Without the community and individuals helping out, we couldn't.
But something happened we want to touch upon. It's in hiatus right now because the Parks Committee or the Parks Department, somehow you got on their radar screen and they said, oh, wait a minute there, folks. You just can't show up and run at the park. You know, what's this? I know you don't have another one planned yet because you got to work it through with the Parks Department. You know, what is the status of that?
The status, unfortunately, is you know, from my viewpoint, the Parks Department is doing everything they can to make it impossible for us to host races anymore, and it's pretty sad. After the Labor Day race last year, we opened up the Save the Putnam campaign, Save the Putnam Trail campaign last year on Labor Day, and we'll get into that and talk about that. And 3 weeks later, we were called into a meeting with the Parks Department, the Van Cortlandt Park Administrator, and they basically went through a list of requirements we would have to meet to hold holiday marathon runs in the future. And we had not heard of anybody having to meet any other race organizers having to meet these requirements before. But they were being imposed on us. And unfortunately, since then, we've only held one race since then in the parks. And holding that race was not easy, and it was very costly. And at this point, it's just impossible for us to put on these races with the restraints imposed by the Parks Department.
In Van Cortlandt. But you did another one. You moved, I guess, up the county. You went to Westchester. Is there an opportunity to continue in that venue?
There is. I mean, it was funny. The Parks Department, they actually denied our permit entirely for Christmas of 2011. So they actually we applied and they said, no way, you guys cannot hold a race here in Christmas 2011 in Van Cortlandt Park. And we were just shocked. We couldn't believe it. I mean, we had held 10 successful races. The community loved it. Everybody loved it. And they said no. And this was they only let us know about this probably 14 days before Christmas, even though we had applied 4 months before.
Yeah, yeah.
So working with the Parks Department isn't very easy either. So we made a phone call to Westchester County. Tibbetts Brook Park in Yonkers is a county park in Westchester. We made a phone call. They agreed to meet with us in 2 days, and they gave us a permit a day later. The exact opposite of working with the New York City Parks Department. And we planned and put on a race in Tibbetts Brook Park in Yonkers in 2 weeks.
Cool.
And it was very successful.
Cool. And initially you started out with 400 that you just emailing your friends. Has it gotten it bigger? You said you've done 10 successful ones. Has it gotten bigger over time?
Yeah, it's grown steadily since then. We were up to about 500 on July the 4th. And probably we were around that 500 level through Labor Day, and then Thanksgiving of 2011 in Van Cortlandt Park, we had about 1,200 people.
1,200?
Yeah, it just blew up and got
my goodness.
extremely popular. And the one in Tibbetts Brook Park in Yonkers was about 500 people as well.
500, okay. Well, 500 sounds extremely manageable. And 1,200 sounds like you got your hands full.
We did, but it was still very successful and
Very
went off
successful.
without a hitch. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
because
a
you
great
got
event.
water, that people donate, or I guess maybe you get local merchants to donate the water because you need some supplies. But I guess most of the runners, bring your own. But I know you said you bring bananas and oranges, so there's a cost there. And that cost was borne by you and the other Michael.
Yeah, mainly Michael Ernstein helped put up almost all the costs of those supplies and permitting and everything like that. And yeah, that's what people don't realize. This is a very unique initiative because we weren't being funded or sponsored by any government grants, any private grants or foundation grants. The biggest problem wasn't funding. It became working with the Parks Department. That's the only reason we're not holding these races anymore.
Let's talk about the Putnam Trail, because sounded like things changed when you got involved, and I guess both you and Michael got involved in Save the Putnam Trail. So what is that? What is Save the Putnam Trail about?
The Putnam Trail is a 1.5 mile. It exists now as a dirt trail through Van Cortlandt Park. It starts at the Westchester County border and runs south from there for 1.5 miles. That's how it exists. It's dirt right now. It used to be a railroad line way back in the early 1900s. It was abandoned in the 50s. So the Parks Department unveiled a plan to pave the Putnam Trail. And it's currently about 8 feet wide, the Putnam Trail. So the parks unveiled a plan to pave it with asphalt and to double that width from 8 to 16 feet. So Michael and I, there was extreme opposition within the local community to this. And the plan had been going on for a couple of years. So last year, Mike and I said, all this opposition exists. Why don't we formalize it and start a campaign to save this trail? Our goal was, not to kill the project, but we wanted to keep the trail at its current 8-foot width and to have it improved with a stone dust surface, similar to what exists around the reservoir in Central Park. That's the type of surface, it fits with the natural environment of Van Cortlandt Park. And we unveiled this campaign to challenge the Parks Department and to gather a voice for people's opinions in the community. And the Parks Department didn't really like us challenging their position, and that's when all the problems started.
It's so sad to hear that started it. I'm a member, as you know, at the community board in the Upper East Side, and I know that the usual way is that the public must be informed of these type of changes and have an opportunity to comment and work